What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, let's talk about it. I'm frustrated, of course, but my frustration is not as much with the team as it was in the first half, because I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about the biggest talking point, Anthony Taylor. I mean, I'm sure Arsenal fans are gonna be like, "Oh, no, 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 he wasn't that bad. You guys are just mad because you lost. Ooh, you lost. Yeah, you guys haven't won anything in years. So congratulations on your first trophy in like what 3 or 4 years." Um, no, but seriously, I mean that's awful. That is awful refereeing. 13 fouls to 3. And half of those fouls were not fouls for Chelsea. But the thing is, whenever Arsenal players see, oh, I can dive and get the call, I'll do it. They're gonna. And especially whenever Xhaka realizes, oh, all I gotta do is scream really loud and hold my foot like I just got the crap kicked out of me, and he'll give a yellow for that, I'll do that twice and get the guy sent off. It's some of the worst refereeing I think I've seen. And I'm sure even the commentators were talking about, and the commentators are neutral. Like, I think even one of the guys was an Arsenal player, like former Arsenal player, I believe they were saying. So he's even sitting there saying, no, that's awful. Like, those are two terrible decisions. Because both of those yellows were soft. Honestly, multiple yellows were soft. Those two were soft. The one on Barkley was soft. The one on Rudiger, I mean, I didn't exactly see what happened, but essentially it just seemed like he was going to get the ball because they were not going and getting it, and then all of a sudden there's a little scuffle, and somehow he gets a yellow for it. And Arsenal walks out of there with 3 fouls to their name, which there was more. If you want to get technical with it, based on the fouls that Taylor was calling against Chelsea, there were a lot of fouls for Arsenal. They weren't necessarily fouls, but based on how the game was being called, they should have been fouls because they were fouls whenever Chelsea did it. The one in particular I'm thinking of is the one that won the game. Christensen slides in, and Bellerin essentially just kicks the crap out of his back. No foul. But that's just as much of a foul as some of the ones Taylor was calling on Chelsea all game. And then, of course, there's the one top of the box. Pedro got the ball, and Pepe just comes from behind and straight up knocks him off the ball. Again, not necessarily a foul because it was kind of shoulder to shoulder, and he did get a touch on the ball. But based on how the game was being called, that's a foul today. But for some reason, it wasn't. And that's the biggest problem I have. If you're a bad referee because you're calling terrible fouls, that's one thing. It's frustrating, but that's one thing. If you're a bad referee that's calling terrible fouls but only one side, that is the worst type of referee. Because it's not even consistent. If you're going to make bad calls on both sides. Hell, that's what I will say about the MLS is that the referees are bad all around. They're not bad for one team or the other. Most of the time, they're just bad in general. So I'll give them that credit. At least they're not one-sided. But Anthony Taylor, I don't know if he just had a stick in his butt against Chelsea. I don't know if he really wanted to see Arsenal play in Europa League next year. Whatever it was, he was one-sided today. There's no denying that. Whether it was intentional or whether he just lost the plot, he was an idiot today. The only yellows that Arsenal got were one, Ceballos, because I think something he said right before Kovacic got sent off, which, okay. And then, of course, we see Arteta got one, too, because of his involvement in the scuffle between him and Rudiger for the ball. So the only 2 yellows they got weren't even for fouls. And on top of that, for some reason, ESPN decided not to even show replay. But let's talk about the Martinez catching the ball outside the box. Because it wasn't even just, oh, his body's outside the box and he's catching it here. It was his feet were well outside the box and he's catching it like here and then all of a sudden bringing it back in. Tammy's through on goal if he doesn't catch that. So that's a red card offense. Because that's a goal-scoring opportunity. If he misses that, if he doesn't put his hands on that, Tammy's in on goal. Red card offense, VAR should check it, but do they? No. Let's also talk about the penalty in the first half. Contact, the foul happened outside the box. Contact, yes, it carried into the box, But the foul happened outside. The pullback happened outside the box. And then after that, it was just contact, and then Aubameyang was like, oh, I'm inside the box now? All right, time to go down. And he does, and he gets the penalty because Taylor's an idiot. But the foul was outside. The pull was actually outside. There was no pull whenever Aubameyang fell inside the box. It was just scuffling for position, and he just falls. And Taylor's like, yeah, I want you guys to get this goal. Do it, Arsenal. You guys are the best. I can't wait to watch you in the Europa League next year. It's like they wanted to give Arsenal a consolation prize. Like, you know what? You guys have been terrible this season. You've not been good enough. You're not even in your Europa League spot. So we're going to give you the FA Cup. Here, have Anthony Taylor as a referee. He's an idiot. He doesn't like Chelsea. You're welcome. So that's the thing. Overall, with the refereeing, it was just very one-sided. You look at the foul stats and the yellow cards, very clearly reflects that. And just the decisions that were being made it wasn't a fairly called game. It was very one-sided. The yellow cards were weak for Chelsea. And there were some, honestly, the commentators, again, were talking about it. Xhaka could have been sent off for the first yellow card on Kovacic because he comes in, stamps down, he misses Kovacic, but it's still a dangerous play. But, of course, all the referee sees is, oh, Xhaka fell down and he's screaming and crying, so that's a yellow card for Kovacic. Aside from that, the other unlucky thing we had to deal with was injuries, and whether that's the people that got everybody ready for the game, the coaches that got them ready didn't do a good enough job, or medical staff not taking care of people throughout the week. I don't know, but that's 2 pulled hamstrings. You got to be looking at your coaches and staff and saying, why are they not ready? Why are they pulling hamstrings in a big game like today? Azpilicueta makes 2 runs and pulled hamstring. Pulisic goes out, makes 1 run in the second half, pulled hamstring. And those are 2 of your best players that are now out with a hamstring tear. Hopefully not a tear, hopefully just a pull. But coach and staff, why are they not ready? Why are they not warmed up enough to where they're not going to pull their hamstring from 2 sprints or 1 sprint? So, yeah, the coach and staff has to be looked at for that one, because that's most of the time whenever you see somebody pull a hamstring after just a couple runs, a couple good runs, most of the time it's from not warming up correctly or not doing enough in the warm-up. Sometimes that can be on player laziness, but most of the time the coaches are the ones that are getting them ready and saying, hey, let's go, let's get warmed up. So if they're not doing enough in the warm-up, that's what happens. So unlucky on that, but you got to look at your coaching staff and say, hey, why weren't they ready to play? Why are they pulling their hamstring after 2 good runs? Aside from that, though, actually talking about the team's performance, in general, it wasn't terrible, but it was very comparable to the Liverpool game, where you start off the first 15-20 minutes were all us, which Liverpool game, it wasn't all us, but it was we played well. First 15-20 minutes, we were running at them, we were putting pressure on them. It was a good game, we were controlling things. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. The goal happened, and then it kind of felt like our play was getting a little bit slower, like we weren't moving the ball around as quickly, we weren't really putting pressure on as hard, and then slowly Arsenal grew into the game, and then 15-20 minutes in, all of a sudden now they're controlling the game, and then of course Pepe scores, but it's offside, but then, the very next play, it's dumped ball over the top, and which leads to the penalty. So, what happened? And then for the rest of the half, it was all Arsenal. Like, we were done after they scored. It was Arsenal, 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 Arsenal. So, why? Same thing that happened against Liverpool, except Liverpool actually has the quality to put us to bed and say, all right, 3 goals, we're done, game over. Arsenal doesn't have that same quality. They just have one quality player up top in Aubameyang. So, thankfully, we didn't get put to bed early, but it's still a problem. Second half, we come out, and we're slow again. Slow passing. So many times it's pass, 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 touch, nobody's there, pressure on, back to the keeper, dump it long, Arsenal's back at us. That was the majority of the game. And the thing is, they know they don't have to press super hard. They don't have to win the ball. They just have to put pressure on. They just have to be in the general vicinity, because whatever it is, our defenders, the midfield, whoever's not doing their job, they're making it easy to defend against us because all you got to do is put pressure, be in the general vicinity, and then one bad pass or that one person that takes one touch too many and now all of a sudden they're under pressure and either they lose it or it goes back to the keeper and then it's dumped long and now Arsenal can build up their attack. It happened so many times this game. And you would think at halftime, it happened a lot in the first half. Near the end of the first half, that's what was happening. It was constantly pass, 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 back to the keeper, dump long. Pass, 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 back to the keeper, dump long. So many times, at least 15 times, if I had to take a guess. So halftime, Lampard, hey, let's go. Let's work. Wing backs, we need you guys to show for the width. Midfielders, we need you guys to show. Giroud step back a little bit, which allows Mason, Mount, and Pulisic to run in behind the defense because we weren't getting enough of that. But no, it was the same stuff. We started off the half, pass, 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 back to the keeper, dumped. Pass, 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 back to the keeper, dumped. Why? And that's where I feel like Lampard really needs to become a more aware manager, is to see, all right, the game plan isn't working. Let's switch some things up. Let's have some players do some different stuff because they figured us out. They know, all right, we just need to put pressure on the midfielders, which should open up some more space for Giroud, which then should open up more space for Pulisic and Mount. But that wasn't happening. Mason Mount and Pulisic were the ones dropping in a bit deeper, which means they were getting marked by the midfield as well. Giroud was a lone man up there, and so he would win the ball or flick it on, and nobody's there up with him. And so it just constantly kept coming back at us. And with our defense, we're going to give up a goal eventually. Again, like I said, still think it should have been a foul on Bellerin for going into the back of Christensen, but fact of the matter is, it was coming no matter what. And then we get unlucky with the second yellow, and now we're on the back foot already. So the main thing I will say about our performance today, because we did get very unlucky with injuries and with the refereeing, but we've got to put the game to bed early so that doesn't affect us. You score that first goal early on, keep them under pressure. We know Arsenal, very similar to us, their back line is very vulnerable. So you score that first goal, if you keep pressure on them, they're going to lose confidence, they're going to start to make more mistakes, they're going to let you score more goals. Suddenly, Anthony Taylor's refereeing doesn't matter because we've done our job, we put in 2 or maybe even 3, and so his refereeing is like, who cares? We just got a bad referee today, but we've done our job early, we finished them off, they lack confidence now, we're good. But instead, we stepped off of them, we turned off the pressure, we turned down the passing speed, and then we let them grow into the game. And Arsenal, the new Arsenal under Arteta, if they get confidence, they're going to beat you. And that's the thing. They are a very weak mentally team, but if you let them grow into the game, they are very strong. So you got to keep them from doing that, but we didn't. So that's the one thing I will say about our play today. Like I said, I'm more frustrated with the refereeing and with the injuries that happened because that's unlucky. But I still have to say we didn't do our jobs early enough, which led to that. As far as the individual performances go, Willie, couple of issues here and there, but he's not our first string keeper anyway. I don't think Kepa would have done much more than he did, to be perfectly honest. I think we obviously need a new keeper, so hopefully they're still on the hunt for that. I know, Jan Oblak and is it Victor Onana? I think from the keeper from Ajax. I know those are 2 of the names that have been tossed around. So hopefully we can get one in soon because we need one. In the defense, Azpilicueta, he needs to be a bit smarter, because Aubameyang is going to go over under contact, but also I understand he's trying to get back, at least keep him under pressure so that way he can't have the free shot. But honestly, I do blame Zuma more on that one because when you play with a back 3, that middle one should be your sweeper almost. He should be the one that's dropped a little bit deeper than your other 2. So I don't know who didn't do their job right, but the fact that now Dave is your deepest defender and there's nobody else covering and Zuma is stepped into the midfield almost, that's not how you work the back 3 system. At least I hope that's not what they were trying to do. I hope it wasn't like a 2 with a stopper because that's not how you do a back 3. At least not most of the time. If you got two good, solid defenders, then sure, you can have one stopper with two behind, but we don't have that. So we need one to be a bit deeper so that he can make that covering run, so that way Spilicueta's not having to try to reach from behind to get in front of him. Um, so yeah, Dave, unfortunate for the hamstring. I hope it's not too bad. I hope, you know, I don't think he's gonna be ready for next week, unfortunately. Which, you know, we weren't really planning to win that game anyway. But it would have been nice to have a full squad just so we could at least kind of bulk up our confidence a little bit more. Um, but yeah, overall, I mean, he didn't do terribly. Just that one mistake of getting caught behind Aubameyang and then deciding to try to drag him back instead of just, you know, at least putting a little bit of pressure on him without having to grab and, you know, put your hand on his shoulder. Zuma and Rudiger, both of them had iffy games. Rudiger probably more in the terrible game. Um, Zuma, he's been pretty good since the restart, but not great. He's had his moments. Today was one of his moments. You know, he just not a lot of great clearances. It seemed like he was making some weird decisions on the ball. His passing sometimes puts us under a lot of pressure. With Rudiger, it's the same thing, but also defensively, he makes some weird decisions. Ever since the break happened, he's come back and looked a shadow of who he was at the beginning of the season. So much so that I read an article and they rated everybody on their season and they gave him a 4. And somehow Christensen and Barkley got 6s. I don't know how. But it's solely based on the performance since he got back. And I will admit, I was a big fan of Rudiger before the break. I still think he was treated very unfairly for that West Ham game. But I will say he's not been good since returning from the break. And today was another really bad game from him. Christensen came on, played okay. He still positionally is where he lacks. You know, he doesn't track runners very well. Sometimes he doesn't make very good decisions. I won't say that. He makes good decisions on the ball. He just doesn't make them quickly. You know, so if you got a team that's pressing you high, he doesn't really make that quick decision. And so it turns into he's looking, the pass is there. So he would just pick his head up and look that way. He would see, oh, there's my option. But instead he's looking this way because he thinks he sees something that he doesn't. And he cuts back this way. That pass is now cut off, which means now he's under pressure, and then it goes back to the keeper. So he just needs to make that decision quicker. As far as the wingbacks are concerned, Alonso and James, both of them were okay. You know, they were involved for the most part. I will say of the two, I thought James had a better game just because I thought he did more defensively than Alonso did. Alonso got caught out a few times, which he does, but also just some really dumb fouls as well and some dumb challenges. But the big thing for both of them is that they were not useful for us today. You know, we need that width. And I get the fact that Arsenal is also playing with a back three with wing backs, but we still need you to pop out there to bring the wing backs forward so that way now we can play it around them. But instead it was they would go down the field towards Arsenal's wing backs, which means they're able to sit back and tighten up the space and not really allow us to play. So I just think they should have checked back more to provide us that help, but they didn't really. And then honestly, to be fair, the defense wasn't really using them either. They kept trying to go through the middle, so there was that. But as far as the two midfield players are concerned, Kovacic obviously didn't deserve a red. I thought he played okay. The one thing I want to see a lot more from him is whenever he gets in that space, it feels like he's almost scared to drive, like he doesn't want to take that touch and lose it. So he will spin into the space, go with that first touch, and then stop himself up, even though there's still space to be taken there. So I don't know. I get that he doesn't want to dribble himself into pressure, but also you've got speed, you've got good footwork ability, so use that to take on a defender, or at least to open up the space a bit more, which then allows the people around him to make more runs. But the problem is it's like, I don't know if he just lacks confidence, or, you know, maybe they've told him not to run on the ball too much, but it just seems like he's not willing to make that after that first touch, which is so good. He's so quick with the turn, his speed, his acceleration is gone. but then he stops himself. And I just want to see more of that drive. Jorginho was just kind of there. He didn't really do much to affect the game either way. Like, he wasn't really hurting us in there, but he wasn't doing much to help us either. He was just kind of a player on the field. So take from that what you will. Pulisic, obviously started off the first half pretty well, but then slowly kind of faded out as we stopped getting possession of the ball. It just felt like he wasn't really connecting with Giroud anymore after that first goal. Like, honestly, the front three, I felt like lost their connectivity. Because the ball would go up to Giroud, and it felt like none of them were really there to receive it. And on top of that, I feel like Arsenal started to crowd the space a bit more too. Which, of course, as we know, for Pulisic, if he doesn't have that space to run, he doesn't really have as much to his game. He needs that space, that quick burst of energy to get past the defender. But if it's tight, crowded area, most of the time he's not able to work himself through that. So that was another thing that I think kind of hindered him in the first half. And then, of course, the hamstring was unlucky. Giroud, I thought, first half started off pretty well, and then slowly, some of it was because he and Luis were kind of having a little bit of a battle, and while he wasn't losing the battle, it felt like more often than not, Taylor wasn't really helping him either. Because there were times whenever, he and Luis would be battling, and then Luis would give him that little extra tug, and then nothing really came of it. And Anthony Taylor was kind of letting Luis do that. It was almost like he was willing to let David Luis have a chance to battle with the defender, but then, of course, our defenders couldn't really battle with anyone. So I don't know. It felt like he was trying to do his typical Giroud stuff, battling with the defender, and he won, I would say, probably about 60-70% of the headers against David Luiz, but it just felt like the headers weren't really coming to anything. It felt like it just kind of flicked into space or nodded down to an Arsenal midfielder. So again, I just think for the whole front three, there was not enough connectivity up there to really get our attack flowing. And then Mason Mount, again, pretty much all three of them had the same game. Started off well, then kind of faded out as our attack faded out, and then second half, I feel like both Giroud and Mount just kind of came out second half and were sort of there. They didn't really do much to affect the game for us. They were just kind of out there. I don't know. I don't think they were involved much in the second half at all. As far as the subs that came on, I already talked about Christensen. Pedro came on. Good energy. He kind of turned the momentum in our favor, but then, of course, the goal kind of turned it back against us. But, good hard work off the ball to win it back. Good hard work on the ball to turn defenders. The one thing he lacked today was that finishing pass. He had so many moments where he would spin, open up space, get into the space with speed, and you just feel like, yes, go, go, go. And then that final pass or cross was just never there. It was always too overhit or, into a defender. It just, the one thing we needed from him today was the one thing he didn't bring to the field. So that was unfortunate, but I still appreciate all the work that he put in. And then the final three subs, Barkley, Hudson-Odoi, Abraham, not much from any three of them. Honestly, very frustrating too, because at that point, go. You've got, 15 minutes almost? Go. Do something to affect the game. I've said this before about Abraham and Hudson-Odoi, and Loftus-Cheek too. Barkley, I don't expect much from him anymore, so whatever. But go. Go out there 110%. What have you got to lose? You've got a week to rest until Bayern Munich if you're going to even be involved in that game, which honestly I don't think any three of them would be starting. Go for it. Go do something. Go out there and put pressure on. Sprint around the field. Anytime the ball comes near you, honestly, even before the ball comes near you, you should be in motion. You should be putting yourself in a position where, okay, if that pass comes here, I'm ready to step in. If we win the ball back, I'm ready to make this run. I'm going to open up space. But they're just kind of standing and waiting and watching. And then the ball comes near them, and then they're going, and then the ball's away, and so they're standing, waiting, watching. That's not what we need from you. When you bring on fresh legs, you expect to bring on fresh legs to affect the game, to change the game. They went out there and essentially did what everybody else was doing, standing around and waiting for the game to come to them. That's not what we needed. And that's my problem with these players, is that you've got better players coming in. Werner, much better than Abraham. Ziyech, I assume, is going to be much better than Hudson-Odoi. If we get Havertz, much better than Barkley. And honestly, even then, you've got you're competing against Kovacic, Kanté, Gilmore, Jorginho, possibly Havertz. Ampadu might be coming back to the club. You've got a lot of people to beat to even get on the field. I mean, none of those three are players that I want to see on the pitch next season. With the players we're bringing in, based on their performances, I don't want to see them. Because they've got such ability. Well, yeah. Barkley kind of can be debated. Sometimes it seems like he's good, but then other times he's just an average player that probably should be playing for a team like Everton. Hudson-Odoi sometimes can turn on the pace and the little clever tricks. Abraham sometimes can turn on that finishing quality. So they all have some sort of ability in their own right, but none of them are going out there and working hard to show us that. They're not doing enough to show us why they deserve to be out there. And so that's why I'm frustrated with all these people that are like, why isn't Hudson-Odoi playing? Why isn't Abraham playing? Why isn't I don't see a whole lot of comments, but there are people talking about them like, yeah, we're wanting to see these good young English players come in and just change this Chelsea team, and yeah, let's see it. They're not showing us why they deserve to be out there. If anything, they're showing me why they don't deserve to be out there. Because you've literally got 15 minutes, you're coming in, you're fresh, you're fresher than anybody on the Arsenal team, you're fresher than anybody on your own team. You should be the players coming out there and, whoa. Can you believe Abraham just came on and did, oh my good, man, Hudson-Odoi, he was a game changer. I'm not saying that about any of them. I haven't said that about any of them, especially since the restart. So what are you bringing to the field? Nothing. You're just more bodies out there. You're players to bring on because, oh yeah, now we got Abraham out there. Now we got Hudson-Odoi. Look at these two young English players that are Chelsea Academy products. That's the only thing they've got to their name, because aside from that, there's no reason to have them on the field. So, yeah, those are three that I will say I'm very disappointed in with today, because you had a chance to come on and show everyone. I mean, Arsenal at that point, we're not really... It's not like they were playing poorly, but you could tell they kind of sat off a little bit because they had the goal advantage, they had the man advantage. They were willing to just kind of play safe, composed, compact, and just waste some time. They kept dumping it down the field, which meant we had a lot of possession because they were just happy to, ball's here, get it down the field. Okay, now they're coming back at us. It's fine. We'll just kind of be here. All right, we win it back, get it down the field. There was no real urgency in their play. So if Barkley and Hudson-Odoi and Abraham had come on with some urgency and they'd actually played with some fire, we might have had a chance to equalize. But instead, guess who's bringing the fire? Pedro. You're leaving the club veteran is the one bringing the most fire and ability to the field. And he came on well before they did. He had 20 extra minutes on his legs, and he's still doing more than the guys that just came on the field, who are young, who supposedly they want to fight for their place, they want to fight against these new guys coming in, they want to fight to try to be in the first team. Where's that fight? And that's the biggest disappointment since the restart, is that you look at Abraham, who lost his place to Giroud because Giroud was just playing well. Hudson-Odoi finally back from injury, but he can't get in the team over Pulisic and Willian. Barkley has a chance to break into the first team because Kanté and Gilmore are both out injured. None of them have shown any sort of desire to change their form. They're just there. And that's not good enough. So, anyways, I know I kind of went on a long rant about that, but it's kind of that frustration going into next season, knowing that we've got these players that supposedly are going to be our future, but I'm just not seeing it. So anyway, with all that being said, though, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts in this game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.